When I was little, I was absolutely obsessed with princesses. I wore my little princess dresses everywhere. I always had a crown on for some reason, and I loved being in front of the camera. I hoped I'd find a Prince Charming someday and live happily ever after, just like I saw in the movies. When I was in school, I found myself dimming my light over time and turning to others for acceptance and validation. I never really felt like I fit in my small town. And when I won Miss Arizona USA, I hoped that the judges and sponsors and coaches would turn me into a woman that was worthy of wearing a crown. When I got into the modeling industry, I looked to agents and casting directors to believe in me and hoped that just one big job would change my life. When I wanted to start a business, I delayed my progress by looking to other people to help me because I didn't believe I could figure it out on my own. Now, after doing lots of internal work, I came to learn that I always looked for someone else to swoop in and save me and be the hero of my story. Instead of looking to other people to validate me, I've finally evolved into a woman who has a deep knowing of my value. When I won Miss Arizona USA, my mom said, "You finally got your crown and your princess dress." When I got married, she said, "You finally have your Prince Charming and will live happily ever after." But here's the cool part. Neither of those things actually completed me because I was already whole. To me, that's being the hero of your own story. I've surrounded myself around like-minded women and invested in relationships with people who inspire me and push me. And one of those wonderful people is this week's podcast guest, Samantha Dahlberg. Together, her and I have designed a capsule clothing collection inspired by becoming the woman that you needed when you were younger. This episode is the official launch of our Hero Collection. Sam and I were two of the youngest title holders at Miss USA. And although our journeys have been different, we've both evolved into entrepreneurs determined to make a positive impact on the lives of other women. In this episode, we talk about our journeys leading up to Miss USA and how we each handled post-pageant depression. Yes, it's a very real thing. We talk about growing up in a small town and being bullied and not wanting to follow a traditional path. Sam talks about designing her life and how she built an alter ego as a way of becoming the hero of her own life. I'm excited for you to hear the heart behind this collection, and I can't wait for you guys to get to know both of us on a much deeper level. So let's get into it. Hey friends, I'm Jordan, but most people call me Jay, and I'm the host of the I Am More Than podcast. I'm a professional model, former Miss Arizona USA, entrepreneur, and confidence coach. But beyond those titles, I'm just an overly curious woman learning to become the best version of myself. And I'm hoping this podcast can help you do that too. I struggled a lot with my mental health and confidence in my early 20s and went on a deep dive into improving those areas of my life. I share about my journey on this podcast, as well as highlight the stories of admirable women who are just like you. We learn from each other, laugh, and cry, and I believe you'll grow after every episode because let's face it, when we realize we aren't alone, life becomes a whole lot easier. If you're a multifaceted woman interested in improving your confidence and mental health while being entertained, you've come to the right place. We're so happy to have you part of the More Than movement. Today is such a special podcast episode because not only do I have one of my close, amazing friends that I've been trying to get on the podcast for 3 years finally here, but we're also announcing something very exciting that we have teamed up to release a complete clothing collection. What we're both wearing for anyone watching the pod. So cute. It's a big day. I'm so excited. Sam, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited. I feel like we've been talking about this for so long. I'm just pumped that it's finally here.
Although we've only really been together in person a handful of times, you're one of the connections that I made at Miss USA that has been the strongest. And I'm so grateful for that. I just feel like we met at a very significant time in both of our lives. So when we had teamed up originally to do this collection, it was like, what, a year ago? 2 years ago? We had this idea. We wanted to work together. We wanted to bring something, but we wanted to make sure that the messaging aligned and it was something that we both felt really passionately about. And when we started just brainstorming, going back and forth with each other, this idea of hero came in. And I think you and I both just lit up and took it and ran with it and created something that we love. And so I want to share with all of our audiences why this is so important to us and why it resonates so much. So As I mentioned, we met at Miss USA. I was 19, I believe. I had just turned 20 at Miss USA. Weren't you the same?
Same. I was 19. I just turned 20 before we left. I think there's one other girl that was like 18, but we were like the youngest ones there.
And so naive. I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
So I had never done pageants before, and I
That's
did dance
right.
all my life, but I had never done pageants. Did you?
I remember
Okay.
bonding about this at Miss USA because we were so
Yeah.
young. We had no idea what we were doing. I was like, I just need a friend in this. My
Cool.
God. What made
We
you want to go out for the pageant to begin with?
so it was we were kind of at that age where you're finishing high school and you have to pick a college, you have to pick like what you want to do for the rest of your life. And that idea terrified me because I didn't really like the traditional like school anyway. Like I could not sit still. I'm just a creative brain like you are as well. And I was like, I told my mom, I was like, I don't think I want to go to school right now. I was like, what can I do? And she's like, just go for a little bit. Like, we'll figure it out. So I went to a school like right down the road from me and took a few like communication classes and things like pretty broad. And then I saw an ad for this on Facebook that they're doing like a casting call, search for like the local like Miss Maine USA. And I was like, what is this? Because I wanted to get into fashion and
Ooh.
photography and all the things that I'm doing now. And I found the date that they were doing a meeting, and my parents were actually gone that weekend. I don't know where my siblings were either. So I was by myself. So I drove myself to the meeting. And I literally put like $400 down. It was like all my savings at the time. And I was like, I'm doing this. And then I think I posted about it on Facebook before my parents even knew. And they're like, Sam, what are you doing? Like, what is a pageant? What are you
Like,
doing? I'm like, I'm changing my life, Mom.
I love
So
that. How long before the actual pageant did you sign up? Like, how long did you have to prepare for it?
so I think our pageant was in November, and I think I signed up in May. So, and
Mm.
I had braces at the time. I couldn't walk in heels. Like if you looked at my like resume, I was not your pageant girl, and I didn't even know how to curl my hair. I had to look up all the YouTube videos, and again, I had braces. Like I was just like a mess, honestly. But I really wanted it, and I didn't want to go to school at the time, and I really wanted to do something else with my life. That I was like, I felt it so deep in my heart that I'm like, I'm going to put 200% into this, especially because I've never done it before. And so I got a coach, and I got an interview coach, and I got someone to like, when I go to the gym, I can't just go by myself. I need to like watch a video. I need someone like yelling at me. So I got a trainer to like teach me about nutrition and to work out, because I only played field hockey. I didn't really know how to work out. So I got all the things, and I trained all summer. So I think I had like 5 or 6-ish months before it was like game time.
And you did the damn thing. You went
I
up
did
there. Did you
it.
have any expectation going into it? Like, I could walk out of this weekend as the new Miss Maine USA.
That's like the thing about life that I've learned is like you just, and I've seen this on TikTok too, but like you have to be delusional enough to realize that you can do anything. And so I was like, I'm going to do this. And there was like 2 other girls from my hometown that had done pageants before, and they've like won them and stuff. So I was going against like all the people in my town were, probably rooting for the other girl because she's done it before. And they're not like, oh, Sam has never done this, like whatever. But I just showed up and I was like, I'm going to win this thing. And I remember actually there's a couple songs. There was like a Lady Gaga song and a Christina Aguilera remix. I forget the names of them, but it was popular at the time. And randomly in the car one day with my mom, I was like, Mom, if this song plays when I'm in swimsuit, I know I'm winning. And so she was like, okay, Sam. No, I kid you not. If we watch the DVD back, the song, I don't know if it's on the DVD, but the song plays as soon as I'm going to go down the runway in my swimsuit. And I'm like, I got this. It was
I have
wild.
goosebumps. I have goosebumps. Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
Power of
But
manifestation right there.
literally, I was like, all right, we're doing this now. So, but what about you? What is your,
That's
I feel like I don't
wild.
know your full pageant story.
I feel like maybe it's just because we're old now and this was so long ago that we actually bonded over this. But I was similar in the sense that I knew that I didn't want to go the traditional route. And I also signed up, went to college, enrolled, was going through the motions, but I did not want to be at school. And I just felt
Mm-hmm.
like there had to be more. I just
Yeah.
didn't know like what direction. And I didn't have anybody to turn to for that guidance because everybody that I was around was at college.
Yeah.
And so I had done a fitness competition after I'd had all my health issues, God,
Okay.
6 months prior. And then I joined a sorority right after. And then my director came into a sorority meeting and talked about the pageant. And I was like, I would never do a pageant. I've like never even watched them before. And one of my girlfriends just signed me up. I'm like, oh, you'd be perfect for it. And the more I started thinking about it, I'm like, well, I've always wanted to model and I've never been able to like get taken seriously in the
Yeah.
modeling industry. Maybe this would just like propel me. And then maybe if I get signed as a model, I don't have to go to college. Like I was just
Right?
looking for
Yeah, no,
every which
literally.
way. Like I just don't want to be at school. And I think I only had like, gosh, maybe 2 or 3 months to prep. And
Hmm.
at the time, I wanted to really use it as like a business opportunity because again,
Oh
I was
yeah.
just so desperate to like prove to myself that I could do something without a
Hmm.
degree. And so I reached out to my extension lady, my nail lady, spray tans to get everything sponsored because I was broke off
Yes.
my ass and could not afford the entry.
Yeah.
So I had a bunch of different sponsorships going into it. And it's funny that now, like, I do that so much of my career. But when I went into the weekend, I genuinely, like, it didn't cross my mind that I could be leaving the weekend as the title holder. Like, it
Oh
just
my God.
wasn't even. And I think looking back on it, I don't know what I expected. I expected to hopefully be in like the top five, maybe, but didn't
Yeah.
ever prep interview questions, like, never a thing.
Yeah.
I remember being up there and just being like, why didn't I picture this? Why didn't
Mm.
I like prepare differently? That I remember
Mhm.
feeling like down on myself during it. Like I should have known better. And then I look back at it and I'm like, I think that was my superpower through the weekend is that I was
Yeah.
not focused on trying to
Yeah.
win anything. I was just focused on having fun.
I
And I
love
wish I
that.
would have kept that perspective at Miss USA because I was complete opposite at Miss USA.
Yeah.
I
I feel
was so
like Miss
stressed.
USA was a different ball game, and I think too after winning the state though, no, not doing a pageant before, you don't know what you're doing. But then now
Mhm.
doing it, and now you have a team of people, and you have all these people in your ears, like too many chefs in the kitchen. Like go to Miss USA,
Mhm.
it's a different mindset.
It's nice that you're surrounded by so many people that like this is what they do. Like
Right.
the pageant world is a world that
It's a
people are experts
business
in.
too. You have
It
to
is a
remember it's
full
a business.
business. And that's one thing that I am now being older looking back on. I'm like, obviously, since it is a business, like they have to make money that has to pay
Hmm.
off in the long run. And
Right.
unfortunately, I think a lot of us get treated like products and not people. At least
Mm.
that's how I felt throughout the experience. That it was like they weren't grooming me to be the best woman that I could be.
Mhm.
It was like you just need to prep to be the version of you that we create because if you win, it pays off.
Right.
I obviously didn't realize that that's what was going on during the time. And I think when you're young and you're naive, I was looking to anybody to save me, to be my hero and get me to that next level, to get me to win. And yeah, it didn't work out that way.
No.
What was your prep like for Miss USA?
Oh goodness. Well, it was so funny when I won the state pageant, my first runner up, she was first runner up for like 3 times before that. And so she probably saw me there being like, "Oh, I got this because this is a new girl." And she ended up winning. I ended up crowning her, so she won the next year, but as
Good.
soon as we hugged, I know, I love her. As soon as we hugged, she goes, "You're going to Miss USA." And in my head I was like, I didn't even think of that. Like, I'm just here for this. Like, wait, there's another part. Like, I knew it, but I wasn't prepping for that. And
Yeah.
so when I was prepping for Miss USA, obviously I wanted to be the best version of myself and utilize all our sponsors and, like you said, kind of game plan or strategize for like make it a business for myself almost and like kind of create that persona of myself online, all those things. But I honestly, in my head, I didn't ever think that I was Miss USA. And so going there, I think my mindset was just like, I'm just having fun right now. Like little girl from Maine, I wanted to win. And I thought like my look was great that year and all the things, but I wasn't mentally going to be Miss USA. So I was like kind of okay with it. Where like, when after they called the top 20, when we all went back, I did shed a tear because you're exhausted from all the things. But I consoled actually some of the friends that were around me because they were way more upset than I was. And I was like, they just need a hug right now. Like I
Yeah.
I feel like we all go into it with different emotions and out like I don't know. It was I didn't think I was Miss USA, but I was there for my girls.
Yeah. What was your mindset? Do you think that like you were in a healthy place mentally, emotionally, physically going into it? Or do you think that you knew you weren't going to be Miss USA because you mentally and emotionally weren't ready for that?
I think I had a chance for a while and then I did something that you shouldn't do and I read like all the pageant gossip boards. Do you know about those?
I did
Yeah.
not go on.
I don't know
Ooh.
how I got on. And actually, I don't think it was like even a group at that point. I think it was just a website or something. So I could like go
Mm.
look. Because I think I Googled my name to see what came up. And I think one of those things came up. I was like, what is this? And so I started looking back and checking on it. And at first they loved me. They're like, oh, Sam, the
Yeah.
dark horse from Maine. This is so cool, whatever. And then I would like keep checking back as I'm like getting prepared. And they're like, Miss Maine hasn't lost weight yet. Like, what is she doing? Mind you, I went to Miss USA at like 115 pounds. But like I have wide hips. I'm like 5'9". So I feel like I carry it different. And of course, like standing next to the girls that were next to me, Louisiana and Maryland, they were so tiny just naturally. So for myself,
Yeah.
even at my smallest, I felt huge. And so mentally, when I was on the stage and stuff like Dancing with Florida Georgia Line, I didn't feel hot. Like I didn't feel like I was meant to be, like I didn't feel like my best because I had
Yeah.
all those voices in my head and now all the other people. What about you?
I relate to that so much. That mine, I didn't go on those messaging boards or whatever they were in the beginning because I saw what it was doing to the women around me. And I
Yeah.
already knew that I was not in a good mental place. That
Yeah.
I was thinking all those things that like there was nothing somebody else could say that I hadn't already said to myself. That
Mm.
it was just like I was constantly telling myself I wasn't small enough. I don't know how to walk in heels well enough. I don't look like a supermodel. Look at all these other girls right around
Mm-hmm.
me where it was I think I was my own toughest critic by far. And then watching women that from the outside were beyond stunning and well spoken and elegant and
Yes.
somebody I wanted to be, watching her like bawl her eyes out in the corner because she thought she was too big and wasn't good enough. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
well, that's what they're saying about you. Then I can only imagine what they're saying about me. And it was
Right.
just like a dark spiral, And I remember being called into, I think it was top 15 and then came out in my swimsuit. And I remember
Mhm.
thinking during my swim walk, again, right after Florida Georgia Line, like trying to have that confidence and like just fake it till you make it. And
Yeah.
literally saying poor things to myself in my head as I'm walking in front of millions of people. And when they didn't call me into top 5, I was like, whew, thank God. And
Oh.
that's what stuck with me, that it was like, what happened? What's the
Mhm.
disconnect here? That it's
Mhm.
you're on this amazing stage, you have this platform, you're surrounded by so many people, and like, what did I train for if I'm relieved that I didn't
Right.
have to speak?
Right.
And that's obviously you get wisdom the older you get and the more you look back at it. But I just remember feeling like, how did my confidence get so low? How did I
Mhm.
get to this point? And then being like, okay, I'm just gonna, just put on a brave face and pretend that it didn't phase me. And then I got back to Arizona and I did an interview, my first interview landing. And she asked me verbatim how it felt to be one of the biggest girls on the Miss USA stage during a
You're
live interview.
kidding.
And it was like everything just left my body because there was one girl in particular. Remember, she was on GMA because she was like a
Yes.
size 6.
Yeah.
And she's freaking stunning. And like they made such a big deal out of
I remember
everyone's
that.
bodies and trying to phrase it in a way that there was representation when like that's not representation. Come
That's not
on.
right. Yeah.
And the way that they phrased it was, I just don't think they didn't mean anything malicious by it. But what do you think of naive 19-year-old girl who's already insecure when you ask her how does she feel being the biggest on a
Right.
national television script? What do you think I'm going to say? Like it felt
Well,
great. Felt awesome. Thank you for really empowering me. That was wonderful. And I felt like the rest of my year, it was very much just like, let's just not let anybody see how I actually feel about myself. And like, if I
mm,
just keep trying to like push myself as hard as I can in the gym just for a few more months, and then I can just let it all go. And that's
yeah.
basically what I did. And then I crawled into a hole after I gave up my reign. What about you?
First of all, I'm sorry that they asked you that. That is awful. If anything, I feel like I was one of the bigger girls up there. Like, actually, I don't even know anymore. I felt
Right.
like this.
I
Um,
think everybody had that in their head though, because the more I've talked to women that weren't necessarily just in our class, but the ones after too, and the ones before, is it's like we're comparing ourselves to women that have literally been dedicating their lives for that moment.
mm, yeah.
Everybody's body looks different during those
Mhm.
stages, and not one body is better than another body. But I think
Mm-hmm.
especially in the pageant world, it's been so trained that like if you jiggle in any way, shape, or form and it's not your boobs or your butt, get off.
Literally.
It's sad. And I mean, I don't think it's really changed all that much since we competed. Do you think it
No,
has?
I think they try, and I don't think it's going as fast as I'd like it to be, but that's why I like we were talking off air how I work in the pageant office every so often to I think it's fun for them to see someone who's already competed too, and it was my first time, all of that to relate to them. But also I want to be that hero. I want to be that girl for them that can, relate to them and help them through things because I didn't have that. Like I didn't know anybody in the pageant world when I first started.
Yeah.
And the reason why I also wanted to do it was because in like high school, I was really bullied by, I feel like everybody's been bullied, but I was really bullied by these group of girls that I played field hockey with, that I worked at the ice cream shop with, that like they were just everywhere. And
Mm.
they, like, I couldn't escape them. And it also was on Facebook, like when Facebook was a big thing. And so for me, I was like, I just have to get out of here. And so for me, I lost a lot of trust in women too, where I didn't really have a lot of girlfriends. I had like a few, but even then it was kind of like, are we really friends? Like I was kind of questioning everything. So I never really had that girl to look up to or that person. So I kind of had to be it for myself and like kind of create it. And it's funny, I have a book coming out eventually, but one of the chapters is about this girl named Jane. But Jane is me. Jane is the future me that it has what had become my hero. Like she was the version of me that I always wanted to be. And so my hero was myself for a while. And so
Mm.
that's why I like to, kind of hang around the pageant world a little bit because I don't think it's changing that much, but I want to try to be at least a part of the change in my little corner at least. So, but
That's beautiful. That's
thank
beautiful.
you.
I think it's really cool that you were able to kind of look to the highest version of yourself, the most confident, the best version, even if you name her Jane, to look to somebody to really become her. I think that's so cool because we all can do that. But I think it's
Mm-hmm.
so normal to like desperately try to find somebody that we want to look up to and that we want to emulate or that we want to just get some advice from. But for a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people, I think it's hard, especially nowadays when people aren't that connected. We don't know the full story of anybody anymore. We just know surface level stuff. So I think it's really impactful that you're doing that and that you're back in the pageant world having that impact because I wish so badly that I had somebody like you during
Mm-hmm.
that time. I think it would have saved a lot of heartache. When you gave up your reign, did you go back to school? Did you go straight to starting your own business? What was that process like for you?
So as soon as I gave up my reign, I was kind of like, and tell me if you felt the same way, but you're known as Miss Maine or Miss
Mhm.
Arizona all year long. I didn't have a
Yep.
name, right? Like I had a
Yep.
name, but no one used it. Even like when I would walk through the school, at like the college that I went to, oh, hey, Miss Maine, or hey, Miss Maine, like randomly in the mall, hey, Miss Maine. I'm like, I have a name. And it really frustrated me, honestly. So now I try to teach the pageant girls that you are you. That's just a title, but you are you because coming out of the title, out of the reign, and now there's a new Miss Maine, it's like, who even is Sam anymore? And I don't
Mhm.
know if it's like post pageant depression, but I had to figure it out and be like, who do I want to be? First of all, because I now have this opportunity, but like, who really am I? And I didn't really know. So like you said, I kind of crawled in the hole a little bit. I cut back on my workouts. I didn't go back to school right away. I just worked hardcore because I was like, I'm not going back to school. Like I'm going to figure this out, figure out who I want to be. And that's why I'm so passionate about personal branding too, because all the things that I've done have been because I've built it or like I've designed it. And that's like my little motto for myself is like design your life. Because I was like, I'm not going back to that little small town in Maine. I'm not going to that college. I'm not doing those things. I'm going to go, create the Jane, right? And create Jane's life and create my life. And so I kind of just put my head down and was sad for a bit because I think that's okay to be sad and try to like regroup and figure out, okay, what's our next step? And I've been working and building my business ever since, kind of just like stepping along as we go here.
I've always admired that about you because you turned around much quicker than I did. I sulked for a while and then was just like, I had two options where it was very much like, okay, I can try to create a business. And, throughout your reign too, you're around so many different idea people that are constantly
Mhm.
throwing business ideas or products or whatever it
Mhm.
is that I'm like, okay, I need to create a product and have a business. And if I don't capitalize on this time, I'm no longer
Yeah.
going to be relevant and nobody's going to care. So
Right.
I tried to go down that rabbit hole. And then it got so overwhelming that I'm like, screw it, I'll go back to school. So I
Mhm.
used my scholarship. I went to a new college. I got my degree. I worked a 9 to 5. And I tried to convince myself that I was okay with that. That was
Mm.
just like, that's just normal. That's what you do. And that's what
Yeah.
all my friends had 9 to 5s. And it was like, why can't this feel fulfilling in any way for me? I'm not where I'm
Mhm.
supposed to be. And it finally got to a point where I was wrestling so much with that I'm like, I don't want to feel this way for my whole life. I
Yeah.
have to make a change. So I got to figure my shit out. And that's when I really was like, the post pageant depression is a perfect
Mhm.
way to put it. That it was like, I really need to like invest in my mental health and figure out, who am I? Who do I want to
Mhm.
be? What makes me happy? And
Mhm.
I did a really deep self reflection, deep dive, and had a blog at the time where I started just writing about it. And it was not meant for anybody but me. And
Mhm.
trying to post it somewhere at least like gave me accountability. And I'm like, okay, maybe this
Yeah.
will like, at some point, I can use this as part of my story. And just doing that over time, that's when I was like, you know what? I quit my job. I booked a one-way ticket to New York City. I'm like, I am modeling on my own terms.
Yes.
I'm doing the damn thing. And it led to a 4-year career and now has led to more than and building out everything that we're doing. And it's funny when you look back at it that I think we all have those choices, right? We all have a deep intuition. We all know what we want to some degree.
Mhm.
But I think the difference is listening to that or not
Mhm.
listening to that, and then realizing that it's never too late. That's what I've had to come to terms with now because I'm like, imagine where I could have been if I started this immediately after
Yeah.
in 2015. And I'm like,
Right.
but I didn't. I started it in
Right.
2020. I needed 5 years to figure it out. And then we launched. So I've always
I
just really looked to you because I feel like you try so many different things and you don't hold yourself back from fear of failure. Is that intentional or are you just programmed that way?
I think a little bit of I think I'm a little programmed that way too because I'm the oldest sister of there's two more of us. I have a brother and a sister, and I feel like I've always just kind of had to figure shit out. Excuse me, can I swear on this?
Oh, girl, I already have. You're good.
I don't know if I already have sworn or not, but I've had to figure my shit out on my own in first, which is terrifying. And so I think along the way, I've learned to just like, if I want to do something, I'm going to do it. And if I fail, I learn. And I think that's just a pattern that I've had. And also, I don't know if you believe in like astrology and all that, but as a Capricorn, and I guess I don't know, the map, the chart is like a lot of Capricorn, which is basically like you're meant to have your own business. You're meant to be on your own. Like you're very like bossy and all the things that I kind of am. And I was like, okay, I guess like in the stars, this makes sense. But I really was just like, if I fail, I'll learn. And if I don't try though, like I got to the point many times in my life, I've gotten to the point where I'm doing something that's off my path. And you can tell right away inside because it's just, you feel uneasy and you don't feel fulfilled or happy. And of course, not every single day is a good day, but you just feel that something is not right. And I got so uncomfortable with where I was at and what I was doing so many times that I was like, screw it. We're going back to my other plan. And every single time that I've gotten back to what I want to do, it just skyrockets another level. And then another thing unlocks, and then I fail again. And then it goes. So I feel like you only see the pretty parts maybe on Instagram. It's definitely messy sometimes, but I think you have to feel uncomfortable and be okay with feeling uncomfortable and realizing what's happening. And that's like almost like God or the universe kind of giving you this fork in the road and being like, are you going to go this way? Are you going to go the way you're meant to go?
You always get rerouted too, because just like you said, when you're off path, you go back eventually. It's just like, do you want to do it the easy way or the hard way? And typically I
Exactly.
choose the hard way. But I just think it's been so cool that the goal that we both had when we went into pageantry was to try and figure out our own path. And I felt like I needed permission. I needed an excuse almost like, luckily this fell on my lap. So I must be meant to do that instead
Mm-hmm.
of just listening to that like deep intuition that like, this just isn't for me. This isn't where I'm
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be. And the older I get, the more I try and really lean into that. But it's been hard because I'm trying to decipher between what's anxiety and what's intuition can be
Yes.
difficult. Do you feel that at all?
Oh, yes.
Girl. And the more I work on my mental health, the more I can decipher between the two. But it's
Yeah.
still an ongoing challenge. Have you had to take time over the last, well, really all your 20s to invest in your mental health? What has that looked like for you? In the last episode, we heard from the founder and CEO of Gut Personal, Bridget. As we were talking about her journey of healing her gut, she said something that really stuck with me. She said, "You can't listen to your gut if it's unhealthy." We've all experienced gut feelings, or better known as our intuition. There's a reason you get butterflies in your stomach when you fall in love or are excited, just like there's a reason you get sick to your stomach when you feel uneasy about something. 3 out of every 4 women suffer gut health issues, and it can look different for everyone, whether that's frequent pain or even headaches, skin issues, mental health struggles. If you're one of those 3, like I know I am, you owe it to yourself to invest in your health and to heal your gut. Gut Personal aims to take the confusion out of finding the right supplements for your gut health by taking a personalized approach using science-backed gut health supplements. Whether you're taking an online quiz or taking it a step further like I did and get testing done, their team is dedicated to equipping you with knowledge and support to help you feel your best. Once my test results come in, I'll be meeting one-on-one with their lead dietitian to create a plan to heal. I love that all the testing and our meetings are all done remotely, and most importantly, I love feeling truly cared for and supported throughout this process. We've teamed up with Gut Personal to give our listeners 10% off your entire order of supplements, programs, and even gut testing. Use code MORETHAN at gutpersonal.com. Let's get back into the episode.
I didn't really even think about my mental health until probably honestly like 4 years ago, like 5 years ago. Like I didn't think about it the way I do now. I was like, oh yeah, I like yoga and like sleep back in the day. Now I'm like, no, like there's so many different ways you can take care of yourself. And my husband Ty has been a big help too. My mom has been a big help because I typically, if I'm stressed or something's going on, my first reaction still really isn't to sometimes like they realize I'm closing in on myself and I'm getting quiet and they're like, Sam, you need to do this. You need to do a foot soak. Go get your nails done. Go do this. Like go do something that makes you happy. Cause sometimes I get so in my head and stress that I just shut down. So I love having them there to kind of help me through that. But another way too that I help myself with my mental health is owning your own business, you can create your own schedule. So I make time to do the things that I like. And like, I just went on a road trip with my family to like Nashville and North Carolina, like the work-life balance. It's not always balanced equally, but I really try to make time for myself and spend time with people that I love. I found that that's the most impactful for me is being around people that I love. And so that's what I'm going to try to do more too, like going into like the next stages of my life. But I also love a good, massage or good, just like cup of tea or a coffee shop on a rainy day. I also love that.
All the
What are
things.
your go-tos?
I'm in an era right now where I'm really trying to just romanticize my life every day. I
Yes.
try and do something every day that is almost feels like I'm on like a little vacation. I just get to
I love
enjoy myself, even if that's like a glass of wine or my juice outside and like my feet in the pool for 5 minutes, where
I
it's
love
like
that.
just something to be intentional about the fact that I'm doing something for me and I'm enjoying it right now.
Yeah.
Because I've found and continue to find that even when I'm doing something that I enjoy, when I'm on a date with my husband, or I'm playing with my dog, or I'm spending time with my family, or on the phone, I'm still trying to do something else. I'm thinking about something else. How can I
Mm-hmm.
grow the business here? I can't shut off. And
Yeah.
so I'm trying really hard to just become intentional about taking time for what I am actually doing, being present.
I love
That's
that.
very difficult for me. Presence is so difficult. But I think a lot of us, you're either living in the past or you're worrying about the future, right? That's anxiety.
No,
And as an
literally.
anxious
Yeah.
person, I'm like,
Yeah.
I spent way too long thinking that I could have changed things in the past when I couldn't
Yeah.
have. And now there's so many goals for the future that you can get overwhelmed by that. So it's like trying to find joy in being present is something that I'm
Yeah.
so heavily focused on, especially going into this next chapter of life, and trying to create more things. Like I want to enjoy it more instead of just doing it for, it's not even instant gratification because it takes forever, but not just doing it thinking that will bring fulfillment, you know?
Definitely. And I think, I love that. I definitely want to implement that into my life too, because when we do so many things and as a planner and as someone who has big dreams and you want to accomplish all the things, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've realized throughout my life so many different things. I've checked it off the box. And then I kind of sit there, I'm like, oh, but that wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be. And
It
now I'm
didn't
like,
feel
I
the
wish
way
I
it was
enjoyed
supposed to.
the journey way more.
I feel that so much. The thing that clicked in my brain more than anything is that when I was preparing for the pageant and when I was in my younger 20s, I kept thinking that if I get to a certain size or a certain
Mm-hmm.
weight, then I'm going to have this confidence in my body and everything is going to feel so much better. And I have a
Yeah.
very vivid memory of being the smallest I had been, looking in the mirror, and my clothes are like falling off of me. And I was like, well, it's one less thing I have to worry about now. And it was like, what? I've
Oh my
put
gosh.
all my attention into trying to shrink myself. And then once I
Mm-hmm.
finally did, it was like, my problems didn't go away.
Yeah.
Everything is still here. My body just looks different. And I
Right.
ruined my metabolism in the process.
Right.
Then it was like trying to rediscover, what does confidence look like and how can I detach it from my image?
Mm-hmm.
Since you also went through a body journey after the
Mm-hmm.
pageant, how have you been able to mend the relationship with yourself?
Goodness. It's so hard as a woman. Like I'd like to say like I don't compare myself to people online, but of course I do, right? Like you have to. It's just like very natural. And recently I've gotten off my birth control pill for just a lot of health reasons and I have like high estrogen in my family and I don't know what your everybody's beliefs are on birth control, but for me I was like, you know what, I'm going to stop it because I feel like it's going to be better for me and eventually Ty and I do want to have kids. So not tomorrow, but like eventually.
Yep.
So for me coming off of that too came with a lot of body changes, which has been really hard on my mental health because taking the pill gives you testosterone and estrogen and all the different things. I have high estrogen in my family. So after I got off the pill, I didn't get any acne. I didn't get anything that I felt happier. Like that was great. But the one thing with my body though was I got fluffy. And I was like, oh my
Mm.
God, like we're back to this again. I feel fluffy. And because for Miss USA, I was 115 pounds and like I wasn't ripped, but I was skinny. And I feel like sometimes I keep going back to that. I'm like, I'm never going to get back to that again. I ate chicken and rice and water all day. Like, you can't live like that. I want to have my wine. I want to have my pasta. So I'm trying to come out of the COVID fluffy, the birth control fluffy. I'm just trying to find myself again and be happy with it. And it
Yeah.
is still really hard. We talked about my hair off air too. I have been blonde for like most of my life that you guys have known me. Anybody in the pageant world has known me before that. This is almost like it's a little red right now, but this is kind of my natural hair is like dark, mousy blonde. But when I was getting into pageantry, I went blonde to like kind of enhance like the whole Scandinavian side of my family. So for the past like 10
Mhm.
years or so, I was blonde. And recently, I don't know why, I was like, I want to go back to my natural hair. And it kind of felt like an era switch for me because the blonde was almost like a character I feel like I was playing for a while. Like that was blonde Sammy and she did all these things and she was amazing and she was hot and she did cool things. But now I feel like I'm getting back to like my more, I don't know, like feminine, just self and like natural self and like who, like I still like to be glam and dress up and all the things, but I feel like the hair has really like marked it for me and like I'm back to being who I want to be. Like now I am Jane kind of a thing.
I was
You know
going
what I
to
mean?
say, you're
Growing up here.
Jane. That's
So
crazy. It is. It's almost like an alter ego in the sense that I think it's easy to just put a label on it, like alter ego, and it brings out that confidence where really it just
yeah,
like brings out another part of you. You know,
yeah,
it's the way that you start viewing yourself. And I think
yeah.
anytime our body changes, we're not really in control of that, especially for women, especially
Yeah.
women going through so many different changes with our own health.
Mhm.
And especially if and when you want to start trying for a family, like so much happens to your body all of a sudden that you don't feel like you're in control.
Yeah.
And I've noticed for me, I go through waves where it's like I feel real good and I'm really not phased by it. And then something
Yeah.
happens and it swings me right back. But
Mhm.
I've really had to find this middle ground where it's just like my confidence and the way I view myself cannot change depending on what my body looks like that day. And
Definitely.
then when you bring in like the things we can change, like hair, tan, nails, like whatever else, I'm
Yeah.
like, those little enhancements, I think that's where people get confidence wrong. That it's like, if you're confident, you need to just be confident exactly as you are. And like, none of those enhancements should
Yeah.
give you confidence. Like, it doesn't give that to you. But if it makes you feel better about
Right.
yourself, I think
It's like a
that's
little
where
tool.
the disconnect is. It's a tool in our toolbox. You got to use
Yeah,
them. It's why they're there.
exactly. I know. Do
You
you
know,
like it? Do you like the dark hair?
I freaking love it. I love it. Look like a boss ass bitch, which you
Oh
are.
my God,
And
that makes
like,
me so
I
happy.
just, I love it. Lauren Bostick said something when I saw her a couple weeks ago. I went to an event and she just went brunette.
Oh my
And
God, that's
she
great.
said, yeah, and she looks amazing. And she goes, I felt prettier when I was blonde. I feel like I can take over the world when I'm a brunette. And I'm like,
Yes.
ooh, suddenly I want to dye my
I
hair.
love. So like, when are you going
I'm
brunette?
having an itch. My hairstylist is trying to get me to go more like my natural color. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I love it in theory. I also think we're kind of having a pivot, at least what I'm noticing, like the people I follow through social media, that natural is in.
I
Like, I think we
know.
went through the really like heavy glam and really
Yeah,
done up. And now people are just trying to embrace lighter makeup, more natural hair. I'm here for it.
I
I
love
love
it.
it.
I know. I feel like the pendulum always swings, but like I'm here for what we're here like swinging to right now.
Right? Let's just stay here for just a quick second.
No,
So
I
you
do
had
love.
mentioned in the beginning too, the mean girls to you in your small town. I can relate to that in so many ways and just really wanting to get out. And you didn't really have anybody to turn to look up to at the time. Now, if you could give advice to your younger version that was still trapped in that small town feeling like you didn't know what you were going to do and people were being mean to you, what's something that you wish somebody would have told you?
Oh goodness. Okay, wait. First,
Loaded
can I
question.
say that if I was in like high school or like even early pageant time, I would love to have someone like you to look up to too, and seeing all the things that you've grown through and gone through and have created. You are so, I feel like it's so cheesy to say you're so inspirational, but you really are. Like sometimes I go on Instagram, I'm like, what is Jordan up to today? Like you were always doing something so cool. Like you just went to another event. So I was like, this chick, like I wish I known you. I wish you were my role model when I was little, is what I want to say.
Are you trying to get me to cry? Because it's working. That's so sweet. Thank you so much.
Wait, let me get your tear.
You're a gem. Oh, thank you. What a gem. Oh, that means so much to me. You have no idea because we get in our own heads, right? And I constantly am thinking, I'm like, am I just like spilling my heart out? And does anybody care? Like, is this impacting anybody? Or should I
Yeah,
like save it for my therapist? Like, which
I know.
direction do I go? And
I know.
typically I
Sometimes I
choose
feel
to do it on a podcast.
like, here we are.
Here we are.
And sometimes I feel like the internet is so loud that when you put your own stuff out there, you're like, does anybody even hear it? Because I say that to my husband all the time, Ty. I'm like, does it even matter? Like, if I post this right now, do people care? And sometimes I'll take away my whole entire long caption that I just took forever to write, and I'll just do an emoji instead. Because I'm like, no one cares. But then I get DMs and stuff when I am vulnerable. Like I talked on my stories the other day about my hips being like, they asked like, what is something that you're really insecure about? And I have to say my hips, like they're just big. They've always been big. My bones are just big. And so sometimes I feel like it makes me look bigger than I am, and it's the whole image thing, whatever. But when I shared that, I had a lot of DMs of girls saying, I love this. Like, please, like, I don't like that you think this about yourself, but please continue to be open and share things about yourself like this, because you only see the perfect Instagram all the time and no one's really sharing anything anymore. So now when people do share things, it should be valuable and it should be inspirational like that. And that's what you do, I feel like, quite often. So I need to like look to you to do that more. Like, I need to do it more. You're going to be my little inspiration here and I need to do it more. But I need to have like little Jordan in my head being like, just post the damn caption. But
I'll just do it. Hey, if you
do
ever
it.
are second guessing yourself, call me, text me. I will hype you up all day long. All we're looking for is to not feel alone.
Mhm.
And I think people don't know how to ask other people personal questions. They don't know how to say, like, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Is this normal? Are you struggling with it?
Mhm.
Especially when you're looking to people on social media,
Mhm.
where I'm constantly in the space that one, I'm never going to force it and I'm never going to post something that doesn't feel genuine. And
Yeah.
two, If I'm putting something out there and it's not going to benefit anybody in any way, it's just a pretty photo, what do I need the validation for?
Right.
I'm kind of in that point now that it's like, I just want to be able to use anything that I have, any platform that I have to at least convey a
Yeah.
message. That's something that we see a little bit on social media, but it's also really easy when you're not seeing that to just assume that nobody cares and nobody wants that.
Yeah.
But when people do really see you, your audience with value, and you do that very,
Right.
very well.
So you asked me, what would I say to my younger self? But I want to hear, what would you say to young Jordan?
So many things. My God. Where do we start? How young is she? My high school version of myself. I just actually posted something the other day about I was bullied so badly my sophomore year of high school that I actually transferred high schools. I just remember it was like so ruthless. And all the adults in my life were basically like, oh, they're just jealous. Like when people are mean, they're
I
jealous. Or like when
hate when
boys are
they
mean,
say
they're
that.
flirting with you. That
Like, no.
whole era where I'm like, no, they're just being assholes. And it's
Yeah.
not okay. Like, I don't care if they're jealous. There's different ways to express yourself.
Right.
But if I could go back to like that version of myself, I would just tell her that there's nothing wrong with you.
I just got
Everybody needs to
goosebumps
hear
from
that.
that. I think you just told
Everybody
my
needs to
younger
hear
self that.
that. Baby Sam, there's nothing wrong with you. There's so much pressure to change and to conform and to try and figure out who you are, right? We all want to figure out who we are. And I don't know that you ever fully arrive there because I think that we're always changing.
Mm.
But we even meet adults now that they have no idea who the hell they are. That it starts when you're young, just learning
Mm-hmm.
that like it's okay to evolve. It's okay that you're different. Doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
something's wrong with you. And if people are gonna be rude to you and make your life hell, it's just a reflection of how they actually feel about themselves on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Easier said than done. Obviously, if somebody told me that when I was in high school, I'd be like, no, I don't believe
Yes.
anything that you just said. No. But it's so true that like the way that we treat other people is always a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. That if you're at
Absolutely.
peace and if you want to build other people up, you're going to project that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I always remember that when I would try on jeans with my mom at the mall and suddenly I would become a raging bitch because I was upset about everything that like the sizes, I don't want to get a bigger size or I don't want to get it.
Yeah.
Like I just was upset. So I would take it out on the person closest to me. Had nothing
Mm-hmm.
to do with her. I just felt like crap. So I wanted to make somebody else feel like crap too.
Right.
And it's like, I think that that's what a lot of people do, especially when we're young and now on social media. Whenever you
Mm-hmm.
see like ugly trolls, that's what they're doing. They're just projecting how they feel. So
Right.
that's a
I love
long
that.
winded answer, but I would consolidate all of that, tell that to her, and hope that she would listen, and she probably would not. So if any younger people on here are listening, please listen because it took me almost 30 years to learn that.
I know. So
What about
crazy.
you?
I think so. If we're gonna go to high school, Sam, where maybe all the things are happening, all the girls are being mean. Oh wait, I have a story for you after, like about that. I don't know if I want to say it on
Oof.
air or not. I might, but I think real quick, what I would say to Sam in high school, as and even younger too, I would just give her a hug. Like I don't know what I
Mm,
would say, but I feel like I would need to feel the hug of like you would just feel the love and feel like it's all gonna be okay. It's good. You're. Why am I gonna make myself cry right now? I
because we're
think about
healing. We're healing our inner childs right now.
just to feel like not so alone anymore and that you can be your own hero if you don't feel like you have people around you at the moment. Just know that your older self and like your best self is looking down on you and like carrying your hand through it and you're gonna get through it. And taking, taking every, I don't know, just taking every bit of that piece of love in of that hug.
Yeah. I think just
But
feeling seen is something that, I mean, we all want.
seen,
We're always
heard, and
seen.
loved. I feel like those are the
Mhm.
three.
Hit all three of those is kind of where you get that fulfillment. And
Mm,
like something just doesn't feel like it's missing as much, where I think people want that void thinking that it's going to be like influence or money or
yeah,
weight or whatever. And then I will feel fulfilled. Where
right.
I think it's really just to, like you said, feel seen, feel loved, and feel
Mm-hmm.
heard. You
Yeah.
don't have to even feel understood, which I think that was and still sometimes is something that I struggle with is I want everyone to understand where I'm coming from or understand the
Right.
intention. And then when people misinterpret that,
Mhm.
I take it so personally because I'm like, I just
Yeah.
want you to know my heart, like,
Right.
and
Right.
how I want it to be conveyed. But like, then again, not everybody deserves to know your heart.
A lot of
At that
people
one.
only meet you where they're mentally at. Like you might say something and it's not going to resonate with them until like a few days later, a few months later, a few years later. They might be like, "Oh my god, I remember that thing that Jordan said. I get it now." You know, like you can't. That's why I've
Mhm.
had to learn that too. It's like when I'm writing my captions, for example, I'm like, "Are people even going to get it? Are they going to care?" And some people will, some people won't. But I think putting it out there anyway is super important.
I'm saving that so that I can keep listening to it. Like, but because you're so right. Like, you're just going to meet people where they're at. And
Mm-hmm.
it's if they're not ready to hear it, if they don't have that same experience, and also if they don't want to understand you. Because there are people
Mm-hmm.
that genuinely just don't want to understand. They want to create an idea of who they think you are. And
Right.
that's all you're allowed to be. I think that's what we do in culture with celebrities, that
Mm-hmm.
we just put them in this box that, like, this is the version of you that I believe you are. And
Yeah.
nothing you say will change that. And
Right.
it's, I don't know why we do that. It's very
I don't know.
strange. We don't let
I
people
have
grow and
one more
evolve.
story about the mean girl.
You're going to say it on air?
I think so. And you can always take it out if you want, but
Hey,
it kind of relates back to what we were talking about earlier. But so when I was in high school, I think it was like whenever Facebook came out. So I was like 13.
yeah.
That's when it first started. And then, so it was like kind of all throughout high school. It was just like these girls were just awful. Right. And so I do the Miss Maine thing and I win and we go to Miss USA. And of course, you know, like how they take the pictures and all of a sudden, like they're all over Google and stuff. You can like Google it yourself and you have, sometimes they're not even the best angle. I'm like, really? I was still moving. Like you took a photo then and posted
Take that
that
down.
one. Okay. So they took I don't know who it was in this group of girls or even if it was a different one. I don't know. But they took these photos from Miss USA. So now we're way past high school. I don't even talk to them. I'm doing my own thing. I'm modeling now. Like I'm doing so many cool things. They take these photos, I guess, and I don't know if they knew where I lived and dropped it off or mailed it, but it was in my mailbox. I guess I never saw it. My mom opened it and was like, "You're not reading this. This is not good for you." And I was like, "No, let me see it. Let me see it." And I never saw it. So I don't know what it said, but they did like ransom style letters and like wrote something on this letter. And I don't even know if it was just pictures of me with like mustaches on it. I don't know. So for the longest time, I was like, that's after Miss USA. Like, are you kidding me? Like, still we're doing this? Like, I don't even think about you guys anymore. Because in the beginning, when I signed up for the pageant and wanted to get out of Maine, it was like kind of like watch me do this. Like I'm going to do cool things. And like I've always wanted to, but like watch me do it. And then once I started doing the cool things, they were never my drive anymore. I was my drive. And so now when I'm my drive and I do my own things and I get this letter, I'm like, really, guys? Like, what are we doing? Like, you're
How
not
bored
that
are
anybody's
you?
below each other, but like meeting people where they're at. I'm like, you're just still picturing me in a certain way or whatever it might be, but still hating. And I'm like over here doing my own things now. And it was wild. I'm like, I can't believe that happened after Miss USA. And now I feel even weird. Like, I don't think any of them are going to hear this podcast to like, oh my God,
If
sick.
you do, please get a therapist. If you're listening and you did that, please get yourself in therapy.
Like, who takes the time to find
That's
pictures on Google,
weird.
print them out, glue them to paper, glue a ransom, whatever it said, and mail it or come to my house and put it in my mailbox? Like, what are you doing?
One, I'm so sorry that even happened to you. That's so
So
bizarre.
crazy.
And that just further proves my point is that jealousy is so ugly. And instead of like them improving their own lives and going out there and trying to fulfill and reach things like you're out there doing, they're like, let's just try and bring her back down so
Right?
that we don't feel so bad about ourselves. Come on, girlfriends,
Like,
do some inner child work. We're better than
I
this.
know.
God,
Honestly, I hope they listen to the podcast
I hope
so
they
they
do
can
too. Please,
heal their inner child too, like we did.
please heal, please. And it's, I don't know why women, I do know why, but again, it goes back to jealousy, like why we feel the need ever to tear down another woman,
I
feeling
know.
as if it will lift us up. It does the opposite. I feel like
Right.
anytime I've never even said that I can remember something negative to another woman because like, ew,
I
why?
know.
Why
I feel
would
like when I was little, trying to stand up for myself for sure, because I was not like emotionally,
Um,
like, I cognitively like there. But I think now being like older, it's like, why you didn't have to say that, Sam. Or like I definitely wasn't perfect. I was trying to stand up for myself and protect myself. But now it's like I would never. Like sometimes I even catch myself like saying, like, oh, I wish she wore a different dress because she would have looked better in that dress. But it's like I want her to look good and I want her to feel good. That's the inner dialogue now that I have with myself. And I'm not telling the girl that. It's kind of like with the
you're
guy.
also a style icon that you're like, let me just style you because I can do it. That's your direction, not me. I quickly on high school, and then I'll move past that. I posted that TikTok about a sophomore year in high school and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. One of those girls actually messaged me and DM me and was like, I just have to say, I'm so sorry that I was
No
so
way.
terrible to you. This whole thing. And it was like, it was never anything about you. I remember feeling really jealous. And that's the only way I knew how to express myself. And like everybody else was doing it.
Wow.
So it just felt right. And I even responded, I'm like, the fact that you have enough self awareness and you're able to like apologize to something that I didn't ask you to apologize. Like, I could have gone my whole life and it would not have made a difference whether you
Right.
apologized or not. But it weighing on her just
Yeah.
reinforced this idea to me that people grow and people change and we have to allow them to do that. We have to
Right.
allow ourselves to do that too. That it's like, I don't still believe all the same things I used to believe. I don't feel the same way about myself that I used to, that growing and evolving is something that I think should be celebrated. But a lot of the times we try and like bring people back to the version of them that we either knew or that we created in our own
Right.
minds. And that's what they were trying to do to you. They're trying to picture blonde Sammy, high school, and they're like, how'd you get out? How'd you get out of this
Literally.
town? We're going to bring you
Literally.
back. Bring you on back. I
Oh
haven't even been to my hometown since like 2011,
my
literally.
gosh. Sometimes
It's been
Ty's
so long.
mom lives the town right next to where I grew up. And so we have to drive through literally like the street in my hometown. I'm like, oh my God, like I get so anxious.
Speed past. Speed past.
Literally. Wait, I love that
Well,
she reached out though and said something to
I
you. I don't
know.
know. Does she follow you or does she just see it? Does she creep
Yeah.
on
And
you?
she's like, I've absolutely loved following you for years. She listens to the podcast.
Wow.
Another one of the girls that was horrible to me, haven't talked to her in years. We started this book club through More Than that my sister was monitoring. And
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
them's on there. She had like a screen name thing on there. And I'm like, who is, there's like 40 something members in there. So I know everybody. I'm like, who is
Yeah.
this? So I went and I looked on Instagram. It's her. And I'm like, that's bizarre.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So it's
See, though,
like,
you're making a positive impact. And whether they're trying to
I'm
creep or
trying.
not, like they're hearing everything that you're saying. And whether they want to take it in or not,
Come
they're
on
listening.
in.
Like they hear it.
Yep. I'll take
So,
it. Come on in.
yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
hate. I'm
I
healed.
love it.
I'm a healed queen now. We don't care about that.
Oh
So
my
you
God.
had to really become your own hero, like you said, which when you brought that concept up, even when we were like spitballing ideas of the hero line, I was very much like, younger version of yourself. Who did you look up to? Who is your role model? And when you
Yeah.
gave me that answer, it was one of the most profound answers ever. And you said it so like flawlessly and didn't even like think twice about it. And I just think that's really cool because even now I'm trying to take that into my own life. And with the launch of this collection coming out, that it's like, I want to be my own hero and
Mm,
try to visualize myself doing the things that I want to be doing and where I see myself. And then how do I move the needle every day and become her?
mhm.
Instead
Yeah.
of looking to other people like I've always done. And I still do. Obviously, we all have our role models and
Yeah.
people that you want to emulate. But I think it's really cool when you're able to view yourself in a different light instead of like holding yourself back due to like your current insecurities or your current circumstances, because that's so easy to do. So
Yeah.
I applaud you for even having that perspective to begin with, because it's so unique. And that's why I'm so excited about this line. Because yes, it's the younger version of yourself, but it's for any woman at any stage right now that just wants to become who she wants to become, not being
Mhm.
held back. And that's what we're doing. And that's what this collection, and I think that obviously clothes can't make a dramatic impact, but the messaging does.
It
And
definitely does.
aligning with you on this it means everything to me. And it's really cool we're doing it
This
together.
this feels so right. Like, how we were talking earlier, like things sometimes they don't feel right. And sometimes in your gut, you feel like, okay, this is it. like when we were spitballing ideas and then I loved all of our ideas. When we came across this one, I was like, no, this is the one with soul behind it. Like, this is the one. And I've worn this sweatshirt around my town here to a few different meetings and to few different places. You're like, I love that sweatshirt. And they're like, they've seen so Anika saw this part the other day when I was like at a meeting, I had my hands up. She's like, oh, Sam, I need this sweatshirt. So she saw this and I was like, oh, I don't know if you guys can see this if you're watching, but on our sleeve of the crew neck, it says, do it for her. So I love it. But people are loving it already. And I'm like, it makes me so happy.
So happy. Makes me so happy. And it's up for interpretation, right? Do it for her. It's like, who is her to you? Is that your little sister? Is that the younger version of you? Is that somebody that you know looks up to you? Translate such a heartfelt message in such an effortless way. And I hope that's how people feel when they buy these and when they wear them. And something so cool that you and I never even thought about, because obviously the collection's bomb and everything looks amazing. But when we made our trucker hat, we just did like the normal hero font. So if you don't have context behind the collection, it just looks like a cool hat that says hero. And I had one of my good girlfriends, a former Miss USA, Olivia Jordan, reach out and was like, I have to buy this for my husband for Father's Day because he's the hero of our family. And it was like, I never even thought about utilizing it in that way.
I love
that. I think that that's a cool part, that like it's translating in so many different ways and for so many people, and it means something different to everybody that's going to be wearing it. And that wasn't even our intention behind it. But now that it's executed that way, I'm like, fantastic. It's exactly what it was supposed to do.
And I love that it was a gift too. Like someone got it as a gift for somebody else. I think this could be a really cool gifted item, like the whole collection. I think would be really cool. The messaging behind it and just like the piece itself, they're such high quality and so nice that like getting it as a gift, I would be pumped.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'd be so pumped. Even I got my samples in the mail and Brendan took the trucker hat and I can't get it back. It's like, what is going on here? He wears it everywhere. And I'm like, okay, we need more colors, more styles. But even your dad hat is perfect.
I love my dad hat.
Love it.
So cute.
We have multiple colors. So we have a t-shirt in 2 different colors. We have a crew neck in 4 colors and a hat, a trucker hat, a dad hat. We have a sticker pack. We have a coffee mug. Am I forgetting anything? I think that's
so many things. Is that it?
So many things.
I feel like there's so many things. I put so one of my stickers on my iPad cover. I don't know if you can see it on the computer, but it's one of the stickers from the pack. It says "Do it for her."
Is that the "Do it for her"?
Right now, but
I love it. Oh, it makes me so happy.
The girls in the office love it. They're like, "What is that from?" And so I tell them the whole thing. It's so cute.
Look at us go. I love this so much. And I love everything that you're creating and just being able to do this with you. I do mean it. It is one of the highlights of my career thus far. I'm so honored and I'm so thankful to call you a friend. You are such a light. And I'm glad people got to know you even deeper and we got to reconnect over our stories, because I'm pretty sure at Miss USA, this is how we bonded originally. It was like, you don't know what you're doing? No, I don't know what I'm doing. You're like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm not okay. You're like, cool. You want to hang out? I'm like, solid. Yeah. We should be best friends. And look at us now.
This was so
for
fun.
Everybody that's listening, the collection is live. You can go shop. It's a perfect gift. Everything's available on morethanink.com. And I'm just excited to see everybody repping this. Our vision's coming to life. Look at us go.
The best feeling. And you know how we were talking about earlier, sometimes when you check things off your boxes, your list, and you're like, oh, that didn't really feel good. This one feels so good. And you know why? I think it's so good. We enjoyed the process.
Like I've never enjoyed designing something more than I have with you in this collection. And I also really love how drawn out it's been, because neither one of us rushed a thing. And I think that sometimes I just want to like rush everything because I want it done now. That I'm glad that we didn't need that right away, because what we created is so fantastic and so beautiful.
I just adore you.
I know. I'm like, can we go hang out now? Fun. Thank you for coming on the podcast. You are always welcome here. And I cannot wait to see you in person and we can rock our merch. If you're loving our pod, please take a moment to follow, download, rate, review, and most importantly, share with a friend. These small steps help us continue bringing amazing content every single week. Make sure you're following us on Insta at More Than Ink and subscribe to our newsletter at morethanink.com for exclusive More Than merch drops and info on in-person meetups. We appreciate you chilling with us and are always here to remind you you are so much more than. We'll see you next week.